only reason that I can do tonight is cause I know you were fine. The only reason that the stresses can die is cause I thought that you would like it. I'm only gone for the secret outside. Because I want you to lie that the only reason I can do tonight is because I really like you. And I cannot.
Hi, this is Jessica Javens Talk. Welcome to Season 1, a podcast that helps you transform your life inside out. And I am here today to talk to somebody that I recently knew about that touched my heart. He's a writer and a speaker. Welcome, Paul Young, to my podcast.
Obrigado. Well, yeah. Good to be with you. I didn't know it was season one, so congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you
So
so much.
um, people know me mostly because of the Shack, Acabana, and it actually was huge in Brazil, by the way. And been there a couple times, loved it. Of course, I love other cultures anyway. Um, I didn't intend to be a published author. I I wrote the story as a Christmas present for my kids. And
Oh,
the youngest was like 13. We have six children. That's why we have 17 living grandchildren so far.
I
And
see.
yeah, yeah. So got it done for Christmas. Went and made 15 copies at Office Depot on their little photocopy machine. Put a little plastic cover on it and a little spiral thing. And because I got a price break at 15, I wanted eight, but it was the same price. So I made 15, gave it to the kids for Christmas. It's like, oh, thanks, Dad, a book. Okay. And but those 15 copies did everything I ever wanted that book to do. I went back to work and never crossed my mind to try to publish it or wasn't on my bucket list. But the extra copies I gave to my friends and they started giving it away. And that's what was the slow start of something that became pretty amazing, actually, pretty
Mm.
monumental. Nobody saw coming. And it just had this massive impact in the world and it continues to roll its way through it. I feel like a spectator really up in the cheap seats, you know. So it's rather an amazing adventure to have been on. Yep.
I am actually shocked that it was just last night that I watched the movie for the first time.
Mm.
And I was like, it touched me in so many ways. It's hard to describe. It's such a powerful movie, and of course, I'm sure the book. I haven't read the book yet. I would love to, and I'm so happy to hear that it was a success in Brazil as well. And yes, I was wondering, like, how did you how were you feeling? What kind of transformation or what did you go through while you were writing this story? Tell me
Yeah,
about that.
the transformation was really before I wrote it. I don't think I could have written it without 11 years of kind of dismantling my whole world. And, I grew up overseas. I grew up in boarding school, sexual abuse when I was a kid, and a very angry father. So, and then moving culture to culture, not being able to figure out who I was in the middle of all that. And all that creates plus I'm a firstborn preacher's missionary kid. So
Mm,
a lot of aiming at perfectionism while hiding all the damage.
yeah.
And so I uh, I was a performer and a good performer. I didn't actually believe I was smart or creative. I just thought I was good at fooling people. And I think it was Freud that says we are as sick as the secrets we keep.
Uh,
And that was me. So I drug it into my marriage, and thankfully I married an incredibly strong, powerful woman who would not put up with anything. And she caught me in a 3-month affair with one of her best friends, and that blew up my entire world. I had to make a decision whether I was just done and leave the planet, or maybe I could find a way to change. And that by that time we had our sixth child, and
wow.
so I decided to take the risk that maybe there was a way to change, and that started in 11. It took Kim and I 11 years to completely heal. and which is a long time. And I wrote the shack the 12th year.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
so everything was in place for me basically before I wrote the book. So
Uh-huh.
like I said, there's no way you can write something like the shack and not be affected by it. But
Mm-hmm.
the what I brought to the table was really what out of which I wrote the shack. And so what you saw, well, I'm Mackenzie, but I'm also Missy. Missy
Uh-huh.
is the 5-year old, and
Yes.
the sexual abuse started at 5 years old. So,
Oh,
mm, she's the child that was murdered inside of me, and Mackenzie is the one trying to figure out how he actually fits in the world. And so you see a lot of my own journey based or smack in the middle of this fictional book, and
yes.
yeah, so.
That's incredible. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing all of that. And when you started hearing feedback from people who watched your movie or read the book, what kind of reaction were you receiving from the public?
You would right from when my friends started to send it to their friends. Um, I started getting emails from people I didn't know, and I wasn't used to those kinds of emails. They weren't like, "Hey, I read your book. I really appreciated it, and thank you."
Uh-huh.
They were like, "Let me tell you about my own great sadness. Let me tell you how this book has intercepted me on my way
Wow.
down." And and so the response has been, you know, I I say to people sometimes that I feel like I should walk barefoot in the world because, every person is a story and every story is holy ground.
Wow.
And uh and so it's just, yeah, that's the biggest thing the book gave me and our family and our friendships, was the invitation to walk on the holy ground of people's stories. And so it's humbling,
Mhm.
it's heart wrenching. I've been introduced to some stories that have, I mean, they would just break me if I started talking about them.
Wow.
And because the human condition, we are so fear-based and self-centered and terrified. So
Yeah.
many of us, and we don't know how to live except from the motivation of fear or shame,
Yeah.
and and to have a light cast out from something that I participated in, the writing of a story like The Shack. It's overwhelmingly beautifully invitational and wrenching in
Yes.
terms of the sadness side of it.
Yes. Wow. It is. And and let me ask you this, Paul. Maybe this will become something else, but if you could or would add one more chapter to that book or that story, what would that be?
They did a Christmas edition of The Shack at one point after the movie came out, and um, I did write an extra chapter, but it wasn't an addition to that, to really the book. It was just a story of one of the incredible stories that have come out of the book. What I've done, I've just sent the manuscript for the sequel for The Shack to the publisher. So I didn't just add a chapter, I added a whole nother novel. And so that should be really interesting. And it takes the story on. It's like, okay, you've had this great experience with God. Now what? Now, how do you actually translate it into your relationships?
Mm,
And so it's much more relational. The Shack was sort of, a story inside theology in a way, and the sequel is more theology inside a story. The story
mm.
is the centerpiece in the sequel, and I really love it. So again, what would I add as a chapter? A whole nother book, I guess.
Yes, yes. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And I heard also that you are, of course, you're involved in so many different projects that are sound amazing when we had our conversation. Can you tell me a little bit, maybe about one of those projects and what brought you to that? And is it related in any way with where you're coming from that experience and that story of the shack?
Oh man. The one that comes to mind that we've talked about a little bit, and And that is uh, because of the book, I have been involved with a number of different prison situations.
Hmm.
But I had a friend, David, and he asked me one day. Well, he said, "There's a guy on death row in Tennessee, and he is so impacted by your book. It absolutely changed his world." He said, "If I get you a copy, would you sign it so I can take it in for him?" And I said, "No." I said, uh, "You get me in, I'll go with you."
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
that was almost something like 7 years ago. And I started just building a relationship with about a dozen guys on death row. And they become so dear to me. I mean, when my father passed 2 years ago and I got home, nobody sends cards. It's all email or, messages or
Sure.
things like that, phone calls, whatever. And but I had a card waiting for me in the mailbox, and 12 of the guys had signed in the card different things to encourage me in the wake of my father's death.
Wow.
So these guys have become friends. They're not a quote unquote ministry at all. I don't actually like the word, but it just to me smacks of superiority and separation. But they are truly friends. I talk to them regularly. If I'm in Tennessee, I always stay over long enough so that I can go hang out with them on death row. And they're amazing human beings. I brought in a few of my friends, and they walk away shaking their heads. For one thing, if they'd have grown up with the kind of situations they have, then who knows where any of us would be.
Right.
But some of them, while I've been there, have been proven to be innocent. And they've said they were innocent. Some of the guys, they are very clear about the fact that they are guilty for what they've done and why they're there. But like my friend Terry that I took the book to initially, he's been on death row for 43 years.
43 years? Oh my
Uh,
goodness
yeah.
gracious.
Yeah. KB has been on death row for 33 and a half. Akil, 33 3 years. And so this is the world they know. Um, so one of the guys that I know, Andre, the Beast, is talking to me about is Kevin Burns, KB, who
Mhm.
everybody that knows the story knows he's innocent. Everybody that, I mean, but he was young. He got in a situation on his birthday. He was supposed to be taken by his buddies to go to a record studio, music studio,
Okay.
because that's what he loved to do. And they stopped. His friends stopped because one of the guys had a beef with another guy in another car. He was not involved at all. Two guys were shot and killed, and one injured, one fleeing, and the other one lived and was an eyewitness. Nobody ever ID'd him. Nobody ever. Uh, there was no forensic evidence. They found the gun in one of the other guys' house. All the forensic evidence was against them. They were eyewitnessed, and they got life in prison and they're both out on parole. And KB got the death penalty.
That is crazy.
It's totally crazy. It's totally wrong. And I mean, he had very poor legal representation, and there were deals made without him knowing between the prosecuting attorney and his defense attorney. No witnesses were ever called. Nothing, 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 and he got the death penalty. So we are working hard to find a way for maybe the governor to intervene with
Uh-huh.
pardon or clemency. But, uh, KB, Kevin Burns, and Kevin Riggs have written a book now that just came out, and it's called "Today, the Best Day of My Life," which is Kevin KB's motto every day when he
Uh-huh.
wakes up. He says, "Today's the best day of my life."
Wow.
And he's become an ordained pastor of the Church of Life on death row. We think he's the only ordained pastor of a death row church in the United States. And if you met him, all it would take is one look in his eyes, and you would know.
What a way to make the best situation out of the worst.
And he does it. I mean, every morning he goes
Wow.
around to cells. He helps people write letters. He prays for them.
Oh,
They care for each other. And at death row, they built what's called the reconciliation table. It
And what
sits
is
about
what's that?
12 people,
Uh-huh.
has the symbol, African symbol for reconciliation in the middle. But the agreement on death row is like if you and I have a problem with each other, we
Hmm.
will meet at the reconciliation table and we won't leave it until our problem is resolved. And if you and I can't do it, we'll bring in a third party, one of the other guys, to help us work it out.
Beautiful.
I know, I know. So
Beautiful.
people
S-
have their imaginations about, those whatever the category is, those animals on death row, and there are some tough, the psychological parts where people have been determined to be criminally insane and all those kinds of things. That's rough. That's hard. But Unit Two at Riverbend, it's an amazing place, and so
y-
again, it's relational in nature. It's not ministerial at all.
Uh-huh. No, I get that. So it's incredible how just an autograph became something amazing. Look at that. This is incredible. And sometimes you would, like you said, you never imagined that you would maybe write this book. You never imagined that it would become a
Never
success. You
intended to.
never
Yeah.
imagined that it would affect people. And now you have all of this going on in this prison and death row, and you're starting this project out of this opportunity. So is this new project something that you're trying to bring awareness?
Yeah, it's not even really a project. It's just part of the next step in this relationship with
I
KB. And
see.
yeah, and I mean, I've got projects and all that, but that's a whole different conversation. But with regard to death row, it's it is trying to find some justice for KB, and so I know Andre wants to be a part of that, and I'm grateful for that. Anything because they put death the executions on a moratorium for 2 years because there was a nurse who blew the whistle on the fact that the drugs that they were using for the execution protocol were 5 years past their used by date, and um, and so it wasn't being administered right. So they put a moratorium on, and like Harold, one of the guys on death row, he was 2 weeks away from being executed, and another friend was 30 minutes away from being executed.
You're
And
kidding.
since the moratorium began, my friend who's 30 minutes away from the execution has been proven to be innocent, and so he's in a process of being um, released, but it takes a while to go through all the legal hoops and everything else. But yeah, so you know, it's a it's a work of the heart with, it's just a friendship. It's just a deep relationship that I I I keep moving forward on. You
Hmm.
cannot future trip. That is, you cannot create an imagination of what's going to happen. And they just started putting out the dates for a new calendar for execution. They just did in the last month. And so a couple of the guys, there's four, and then they want another five, and KB will probably be on the five after the first four. And those are some of the guys that I know. So
Wow.
it's it's rough. When here's a thing. KB's case went in front of the Supreme Court of the United States, and it was his last judicial appeal. And all that they had to do is decide whether to review the case or not.
Okay.
And the majority of the Supreme Court said no. Three of the Supreme Court said absolutely. And Judge Sotomayor wrote a scathing um, uh, renunciation of what the majority decision was, and said if there's any case that she'd ever seen, this one deserved to be looked at and reviewed, and that the lower courts were almost borderline illegal in what they did. So, but because the majority said no, we're not going to review the case, that was KB's last judicial appeal. That's why we want to work, see
I
if we can
see.
if we can't get the governor to look at it. But the day, I was involved in the amicus brief that went before the Supreme Court, and the day that they turned it down, it just broke my heart. And so I really had a rough morning. And I was talking to Wes, a friend of mine in Nashville, and unbeknownst to me, he gets word to the guys on death row how hard a time I was having with the whole thing. And that afternoon, I get a call from KB and Terry King, and they called to encourage me because they knew I was having a rough time.
Oh, that's incredible. Look at
That,
this. This is amazing. This is amazing. It's that you guys are getting together and taking charge no matter what happens, and you're so determined to stop this and to make the difference. This is so inspiring. And listening to your family, how many people you have in your family, and that you're extending that to these other people. This is something absolutely amazing, and I hope that the listeners can truly be inspired in this the heart that you have, and what you're doing here, and the difference that you're causing. It's really inspirational. I can't wait to see more, to follow that, and of course to see the project once it's there and out there, and to share it with everybody that I possibly can. I'm part of different communities too, and I think that a lot of people are not aware of the situation. So it's important that we are putting it out there, that we're talking about it and sharing. So thank you for that.
you're
What would you
welcome.
like to leave our listeners with today, Paul, in reference to what we talked about, and what they can take with them once they finish watching this?
All I'm doing is telling you what love does, how love responds. And you don't have to be involved in a death row kind of situation. We're talking about your relationship with your spouse or your partner or um, a friend. I mean, what is the next right thing for love to do? What is the next right response? If that's to forgive, then forgive, for goodness sake. You know, it, Violence and brutality and meanness and snarkiness and all, they don't change anything. All they do is add to the pain in the world. It's love and it's kindness and it's forgiveness. Those things actually change the world. So why don't we just all look and respond to what's actually happening in the moment in front of us and make the choice to respond in love and in kindness rather than all these other things, and the world will change. It's just that we all feel so lost in our own stuff and our fears. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I,
so
and I love how you put it in the movie too, because it really makes it easy for the people to understand what that looks like, by the way it was portrayed. So if you haven't watched this movie or read the book, you absolutely have to. It's a must,
mhm.
a must. Very inspirational. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming today. If somebody wants to go and follow you or perhaps connect with you, how can they reach you?
Well, right now, my son Nicholas, he does all the technical stuff, but we started a little podcast. It's sort of an unpodcast. I mean, we don't have any sponsors or themes or anything, and it's just 15 to 25 minutes twice a week. But it's a good way to connect, and all you have to do is look up Paul Young Podcast. And so
Perfect.
podcast.com, and it has a comment sheet, and that's a good way to connect. And we're also going to put a page up on that site that'll just to be continuing information with regard to KB and some of the other situations we have on death row.
That's great. You got to get that started, and it's going to keep growing. So that's excellent. Very good. If you're watching this episode, please make sure you click the like button, that you follow me, and you subscribe, and share this with everybody that needs this. Perhaps almost everybody that you know will need to watch this podcast. This is a podcast that is brought by Forever Living, the best aloe vera juice in the world that changed my wellness, and it's produced by the I Am Beast Network. My name is Jessica Javens, and this is Jessica Javens Talk.
Baby girl,
You,
you are
Jessica.
so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Feels magic just touching me, trick me, trick me, trick me. 'Cause baby girl, you are so the only reason that the stress is contained is cause I thought that you would like it. I'm only gone for the secret outside. Because I want you to like that the only reason I can do tonight is because I